Wolf.
Hello, welcome back to the Trading Triangle. It's me and Kay once again, live on this wonderful Sunday. It's nice and sunny over here. How you doing, Kay?
It's nice and sunny here as well. It's I think mid 80s, so nice weather. Happy
Oh,
Sunday to everybody.
that means nothing to me because I'm a Celsius man, but I'm sure that's kind of mild-ish. And Liverpool just taking a 2-0 lead, so I'm very happy as well in terms of the football. But yeah, back to the charts. Obviously, it's just me and Kay, a couple of guys on the internet looking at charts. It's not financial advice. We just love looking at charts. If I say charts one more time, yeah, things are going to go away. Thank you very much, Wolf, again for letting us use the platform. We really, really appreciate it, and obviously, we love to do it. So as long as you can keep supporting us in that way, that would be fantastic. I'm sure you
Absolutely.
agree there, Kay. Yeah.
So definitely, so subscribe to all the channels, Wolf's channel, our channel, and let's get this rolling.
Awesome. Yeah, and just a quick announcement. Obviously, we did announce it at the end of last week. We'll be going live every Wednesday, or most Wednesdays, at the end of September over on the YouTube channel. So not X. So if you are interested in keeping up to date with kind of midweek news and obviously looking at kind of charts and interacting with the audience, etc., kind of general live stream stuff, obviously do go ahead and subscribe on the YouTube channel. And without further ado, let's jump into the presentation. Cool. So, market overview for last week. It's mostly green. We did have Fed Chair Powell obviously talk on Friday related to Jackson Hole. We did mention that quite a few times last week, and it definitely delivered, didn't it? Straight away, the market was green, and it kind of stayed green, and then kind of moved up a bit, and then kind of moved down, and kind of chopping around for the end of Friday. But what are your thoughts on kind of the speech itself, and perhaps the kind of price action around it, Kay?
I think when we went into the speech, I think there was an expectation that we will have a rate cut getting announced, and then that's exactly what happened. I think now the discussion has moved from will we have a rate cut to what's the rate cut going to be? Is it going to be 25 basis point, which is 0.25%, or 50 basis point, or 0.5%? So I think that's where the discussion is. We will most likely get a rate cut in September. I think the decision will come after we get those CPI numbers. And I think CPI comes out, I believe, 9/11, 9/12, something like that. So right after that, we will have the announcement of the rate cut. So I think market took it nicely. And now we are going to be getting into this mega week for the earnings, which we will talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, and I think just before we did that, I did also forget to say, put your tickers in the comments because we do look at the audience requests after our kind of individual charts. I've got Tesla and NVIDIA, which I'm sure kind of we'll talk about for quite some time, and you've got CrowdStrike and Salesforce. Is that right? So
That
after
is
those charts, we will get onto your charts. So stick them in the comments, and we'll definitely get to those. No problem. All right, next chart. So we've got a bit of sentiment here in neutral. So last couple of weeks. Actually, I think last week, what was it last week? It was fear. So, yeah, the last kind of month or so, we've been trading around kind of extreme fear and fear. And we've just kind of moved up to neutral now. We're approaching all time highs. We'll get to that in a second in the SPY chart. But what are your thoughts here? It feels a bit greedy because the last kind of 3 weeks has been very, very good.
I
So we're sitting in neutral.
I absolutely. And actually you can see the difference in put to call. So put to call was zero point 0.8, then it dropped to 0.78. So the reduction was pretty slow, but suddenly now we are down to 0.69. So this is just within a week. And if you can go back and check our video from last week, it was 0.78 and then it dropped to 0.69. So there's a big drop in the put to call. So there's a market is getting a little bit more bullish, especially after the rate cut announcement. You can see from SPY, QQQ, and even IWM. IWM was almost down to 200, little bit 205, 212 level. Now it's back above 220. You can see the same with Bitcoin. I think the Bitcoin price might get changed a little bit now, but it's like up almost 10% for the week. Crazy.
I know. And there's a couple of key events as well. We've got NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday, which I don't think anyone's interested in. And we've got core PCE as well on Friday. So, yeah, a couple of key events there. So do keep an eye on that one. So earnings. Speaking of earnings, we've got that small company in the middle there just after close on Wednesday. Kay, I know you're looking at this one quite intensely. You've got a few positions there. What are your thoughts around where it's going to go?
I think so. I did cover this on my video. So if
You
you
did.
have not seen, definitely go check it out on my channel. I covered it last week. I think the expectation is they will beat the revenue. The question is how much they're going to beat the revenue by. In the last 4 quarters, they have beaten revenue by 2.4, 2.1, 1.5, 1 point something like that. And then this time we are expecting for them to beat the revenue by over a billion, 1.2 maybe. So we'll see how that plays out. I think considering all the meta and all the big seven max seven companies are still investing heavily into the infrastructure for AI. I think this is continuing. Apart from Nvidia, which I guess everybody's talking about, I think a couple other key earnings are happening is CrowdStrike, Salesforce. I know a lot of people follow a firm, especially has started performing very well after they had some very good partnerships with Amazon and others. You also have Okta, and then we have Lululemon on Thursday. Those are the big ones that I'm watching, honestly.
Yeah, and I think just a kind of crowd favorite, I think IREN, which is ticker symbol IREN, which is Iris Energy. A lot of people are kind of interested in that one, etc. They are, I think, what have I got on my notes? Wednesday after hours, which is not on the screen as you can see, but
Hmm.
just a kind of side note of that one. But yeah, I mean, Li Auto is one that I'm looking at as well, kind of
Yeah.
related to kind of Chinese EVs, although it's not a pure EV play, but still it's kind of in that kind of ballpark. But yeah, I think definitely the big one is NVIDIA this week. And obviously, like you said, CrowdStrike and Salesforce. Here to Learn is commented on the side there. I'm trying to bring it up. Um, are you are you planning on doing any earnings related trades on this? Are we going to get to that later on, Kay, or do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, so CrowdStrike, I do have the chart, so we'll touch upon the CrowdStrike for the earnings play. If you are interested, we can also take a look into Net, which is NetApp, and Okta and Affirm for the earnings as well. So I'll put that in the list, and we can cover those in our audience request section.
Awesome. Love it. Let's move on. So, this is the SPY. This last week has been a little bit, actually, kind of a bit flat. I mean, not really. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So up, yeah. So we said about 1.2%. I think it was a few slides ago.
Yes.
So we are up, and we're only zero point 0.5 away from all-time highs, which I'm pretty sure you can see that on the screen there. Um, so I see more upside personally. I haven't put anything else on this chart. I want to keep it fairly clean. Just because of the market sentiment recently, of course, it's been very, very bullish, but there's no reason why it can't continue. Maybe not in such dramatic fashion where we punch through this resistance and just go mad, but maybe just a consistent kind of like a normal bull market, shall we say, like 1 or 2% a week, etc. But of course, if we don't, if we pull back a little bit, this area here of 545, which we did point out last week, is one that I'm really, really looking at. Not just because obviously the gap fill, but of course this volume here as well on the side. So that's what I really wanted to mention on the SPY this week. Nothing hugely on the news side. Obviously, we've got the NVIDIA earnings and on the core CPI on Friday, but it doesn't typically move the market too much. It's just good data point for the Fed. Anything to add here on the SPY?
Not on specifically on SPY in terms of where is it going. Of course, Nvidia earning is going to be the driving force. But just looking at the put to call ratio, it's we are in that neutral to little bit slightly bullish zone. So Wednesday it's 0.84, then we have 1.07, then getting into 0.82. So there's bullishness in SPY. I think other way that you can look at trading SPY, if you are apart from doing day trading, if you are into it, in options trading you can also look at credit spreads on SPY. Those are good opportunities because you know that the general bias of SPY is going up, so you could look into selling, doing credit spreads, and I'll cover that more a little bit on my channel later. But that's another good trade idea. It's not going to be a huge premium that you will get, but it's safer, and considering it's SPY, you have a good idea on how to do that. So I won't spend too much time on this one, but I think from now, I think Nvidia earning is probably going to push the SPY further up along with QQQ.
I'm sure learning about credit spreads will help a lot of people. So yeah, I think that's a good idea. Um, we're done with QQ, SPY. It's going to QQQ.
Yeah.
Okay, so a few more lines on this one. It's not actually as tight as the SPY, of course. This one's a bit more dramatic. Obviously, being tech moves up and down in a very volatile fashion. So obviously, just be careful if you are trading tech names. But you've heard that from us many, many times. So we won't beat the Yeah. So we've got a couple of lines here of gap fills down the bottom here. So we've got 465 and 454. So something to be kind of looking out for, of course, if we do get a bit of a downturn. Obviously, Thursday we did have a big kind of red candle. And then Friday was a bit of a doji. So I'm pretty sure you're going to mention something about that on the QQQ. But just to finish off my kind of segment here, we've got a gap fill just above it at 493, which looks like it's kind of on its way. But I think there might be a few sellers there, in my opinion. And obviously, if we do have the kind of average percentage up to that all-time highs for Qs, that's 4.85%, which for the Qs is actually not a lot. You can get that in just a couple of days, and you can kind of see it throughout here more on the sell side. But yeah, there's a few kind of different ways it can go, of course. But this last candle here, what do you see? What are your thoughts here? Because I know that you're looking at that candle.
I think from my perspective, it's more like the market is kind of sort of bracing for next week, because I think in the S&P 500 you have the 8 out of 13 big companies reporting earnings this week. Like you have CRM, CrowdStrike, uh, NVIDIA, and others. And from my perspective, what I'm thinking could happen is we could have something more of a buy the rumor, sell the news situation. So you could see big gap ups or big movement Monday, Tuesday leading up to Wednesday before the earnings. Now, when we'll touch upon CrowdStrike and Salesforce, you will see that the sentiments are very different for both those stocks, and we'll cover that a little bit later. But I wouldn't be surprised if we actually get these 5% before Nvidia even reports earning, and then we could either see further up, pull back, push up towards newer highs, or we could see more like a sell the news event.
I always forget how much percentage Nvidia is of the QQQs. Do you know off the
Uh,
top of your head, or
Not the top of my
because
head, but let's.
I imagine it'd be quite large, especially given the recent move it's had in the last couple of years. It's been quite tremendous. I really wish I bought it a couple of years ago. I just,
Nvidia is 8% of
I mean,
QQQ. So if I'm
nice.
looking at the holdings, Apple is 8.99%, Microsoft is 8.17%, Nvidia is 8.1%. Then you have Broadcom 5%, Amazon 4.82, Meta 4.75, Tesla 2.76, and then Costco. And then
So
Google are much lower.
yeah, so
So very different actually
yeah.
from what I had imagined.
As that's what I thought. I thought Google and all that would be quite up there as well, obviously given
No,
they're a bit kind of large tech names, and I thought Nvidia actually might be a bit lower.
I,
I guess
I didn't realize Broadcom went up so much
yeah,
on QQQ.
its
Interesting.
market cap. Yeah. So it basically, to kind of summarise there, it will move the QQQs, of course, being 8%. So we look forward to obviously what happens there.
It's a big move. Yeah, it's going to have a major impact on this one.
Looking forward to it. I'll be getting my popcorn out on Wednesday evening. Awesome. This is a video, so we kind of spoke about it quite a lot. So I think we'll probably just breeze through this one. I just want to kind of add in a few technical elements too. Obviously, it means nothing really with earnings around the corner, but I do like the breakout, the trend line breakout retest here that happened on Thursday. It came right down. It did close there, which is not really what I like to see. I like to see a little bit of a bounce. But perhaps that's kind of where it was towards the end of the day. The last couple of hours, it may have just kind of tailed off slightly. But what I did like to see was Friday, obviously, price action kind of gap up a little bit. Not gap up, it jumped up a little bit and then kind of came towards the top here. Not exactly what I'd like to see. I'd like to see it kind of close above the previous candle and above Thursday's candle. But, you can't have everything. So what I wanted to add here is the implied move for NVIDIA. It's around about 8%, I believe.
Yep.
And I've represented that here with this kind of green shading area and this red shading area. That is the 8% either side. Obviously, it's not going to be 8% exactly. It could be 10, it could be 12, it could be 3 or 4. So it's just a kind of rough area of where it could end up over the next couple of trading days after the earnings, of course. So yeah, a few things to kind of note on this chart, just a few technical points. Anything to add here, Kay? Because we covered the
Yeah.
video
So
quite a lot.
I think pretty much you covered everything. All I'll say is that if you notice this last week, it pretty much consolidated around the $130 price level. Stock price. It was up one day, down another day, but pretty much it's in the same range. And that's where a lot of volume also came in. We have a very, very good support volume at 121. So if you draw the Fibonacci on this one, 121, which is the 61 percentile of it, has pretty good volume. We are only 10% away from the all-time high. So if your implied move is about 8-9%, that's pretty much right at the top. So I wouldn't be surprised if a strong earning, strong guidance comes in, and I think that's most likely everybody's expecting that to happen. We might even see newer highs for NVIDIA breaking the 140.76
Yeah,
high.
it's very possible, and we've seen it in the past. If I had a weekly chart on here, you'd be able to see that previously demonstrated for NVIDIA. So yeah, very. I think everyone's anticipating for this one. I'm looking forward to it a lot. Should we move on, Kay?
Let's do that.
Nice. So this is Tesla, something that's a similar sort of pattern. So you've got a trend line breakout kind of happening here. It's kind of broken through, come back down, and we tested it at kind of a 210 level. Again, similar to NVIDIA, kind of jumped up a little bit, but it closed just below the kind of Thursday's candle, which is again not what I would like to see, really. But it's not the end of the world. You could say this is a bearish engulfing, but that typically happens on like the most recent trading, rather than like, if it's the other way around, perhaps these two candles the other way around, that would be more of a bearish engulfing for me. But yeah, that's obviously something to be aware of as well. A big gap down here of 148.
Yeah.
I was to get my eyes tested. Around about 148 there, down there. It would take a lot for that to happen at the moment, at least in my opinion. I see more so this gap fill at the top here, 246, kind of going up there and filling. And I do like the kind of selling area around here. Do you
Do
agree
you
there,
know what?
Ken?
Do you know
Yeah.
my take on when that will happen? Just a assessment. I think the robotaxi event, if it gets another push out, or it doesn't meet the expectation on what Elon Musk is trying to put forward, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla sees a sell off. But honestly, I think if they move from August to October, I think we'll probably be surprised by what they are going to come out with. Especially with, if you follow Tesla news, closely, you probably will see how they are getting really good into their newer versions of FSD. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if it's like it's a jaw dropping event for us.
In which case, that gap will be filled and some. But you're talking about if it gets pushed back again, you're more than likely going to see this kind of gap
Oh,
potentially filled
100%.
down here. Yeah.
I think if that event gets pushed out, or that event,
Mm.
does not meet the expectations, because see, there's a lot riding on that event now. It already got pushed from 8 to October. So if that happens again, or the event is not as good as what the street was expecting, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some major sell off.
So it's moving from 8 to 10 isn't it? Is it 10?
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that, yeah. So
Yeah.
that'd be interesting. That's actually only about 5 weeks away, maybe 6 weeks away,
Yeah.
which is incredible. The months move so fast. But yeah, just finishing off Tesla here. Obviously, we do have that gap fill, which from here is just 12%. It's not too bad, actually. So something to consider if you're looking at kind of Tesla options, etc. But yeah, that's it from me, really, chart wise. You can find me on X, YouTube, and Substack. This week on YouTube, I'm going live a couple of times just to kind of get the kind of opportunities rolling out there, a bit of psychology, kind of around the markets at the moment. And on X as well, I'll be posting my current trade updates tonight as well. So if you go ahead and obviously follow me on X if you're interested in my trades, which I'm sure many of you are. Just before we jump over to Kay's charts, we're just going to bring up this one here. So stick your audience requests in the comments. We've got a few so far, and I think we've popped in a few of our own, but obviously keep sticking them in the comments. We would love to kind of go through your charts. And it actually helps us because it opens us up to more opportunities if I could get my words out. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking and I'm going to hand it over to Kay for his first chart.
Awesome. Appreciate. Thank you. So first one is CrowdStrike, and that is also one of the requests from Here to Learn. So let's touch upon how it's looking up. So the put to call, very bullish, 0.54, and the implied volatility is 90%, which kind of tells you how much you're going to get in premium, or how much the options are going to cost you. So if you're a buyer of an option, you will pay pretty high premiums, and if you're a seller of an option, you will get high premiums. The implied move is about 8%, give or take. So you're looking at about $20, $23, $24 kind of a move. That's what I have marked over here. The EPS expected is 0.97, revenue 958. So barring that mishap that happened with CrowdStrike of pushing the wrong code and driving the entire world's system down, pretty much CrowdStrike has been an absolute beast in performing in earnings. So they have never missed a EPS, they have never missed a revenue. Now, because of that major uh, debacle, we saw this major gap down, which you can see in the yellow highlighted, which is from the current level is about 23%. So I'm not saying we could, but if earning comes out pretty strong, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually fill that gap. We still have a big run of 44% to go back to its all-time high. I don't expect that to happen. There was also a news that Microsoft is having an event and they're bringing CrowdStrike as part of their partners program. So I think this was a flash in the pan, and a lot of people probably took opportunity. They started a position in CrowdStrike. So I think on the upside, I will be looking at having moving it from 271 to maybe 280 to maybe 290 to 95, even touching the 300 mark to fill that gap. That's what I'll be targeting from a long term position or long a swing trading position. If you got in at 200 when it was, or somewhere around that, you're still up handsomely by now.
Yeah, definitely. That's almost it's about 40% roughly,
Exactly.
which is incredible. And to the fact that you're thinking perhaps if we get good earnings and we might be able to fill the gap, that's another 23% from here, which is,
Yeah.
I mean, astronomical, of course. So it'd be interesting to see what CrowdStrike does. I'll be looking at this one for sure, because obviously you said it basically made a mistake, but it's a pretty big mistake, wasn't it, Kay?
I mean, but those kind of mistakes do happen, but that doesn't mean that the business is weak. It's not like the business is not getting, CrowdStrike is not getting clients. CrowdStrike clients are leaving CrowdStrike. That did not happen. Those kind, if you are in this field, tech field, you kind of know these things. Yes, the impact was major and it was all over the news around the world, but hey, it was managed, right? They were able to manage it.
Yeah,
Most of the tech firms have had that kind of debacle once in their lifetime, or at least more than once. Okta was another stock, I think a year and a half back, they had a breach. So these kind of things happen, but you do take advantage of those massive drops.
yeah. It's just knowing when to get in, isn't it? It's been a bit bold around those areas, but this is not one of
Yeah,
the stocks I typically look at. So unfortunately, I've missed that opportunity. But I can see why people would have done that. Got in on the opportunity. I mean,
yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I know a couple of my friends. They jumped in right after this, so they got in around the 230, 234,
yeah,
235 mark. But then it also went down further. So then at that point of time, they were a little worried on, did they get in early? But now they're happy. They're sitting at, a decent $40 profit.
I'm sure they are. Yeah. One thing I would add on the chart wise, I don't know if you touched on it, but this level here of 282, you kind of got over here, but you've got this as big support in the past. But even actually kind of came back up on that day, whatever that was.
Yep.
So we're kind of approaching that as a resistance. So, I mean, it doesn't mean too much, obviously, with earnings around the corner. But we could, perhaps if we get that move up, that'd be somewhere I'd be looking to kind of start a position, at least from a swing trading portfolio, perhaps. Yeah. So that's my thoughts on CrowdStrike.
Yep. All right. So, unlike CrowdStrike, which has a lot more positive sentiments going into earnings, CRM, Salesforce, has a little bit more on the negative side. And you can see the difference is the put to call is 1.18 and the IV is only 68%. So, getting into earnings, generally the IVs should be pretty high. The revenue expected is 9.23 and EPS around 2.36 with an implied move of about 7-8%. So, looking about $20 plus minus. Um, I haven't traded Salesforce in a while now, but you can see last earnings they had this massive gap down, and then most of the weeks leading, post earnings, they have been kind of barcoding up and down, kind of filling that gap up slowly. So if the earnings come out well, but then we can see something more of a resistance going up to the 290 level. Otherwise, we could, drop down back to the 235, 40 level, which has the biggest volume shelf. Um, I think the sentiment on the street is a little bit bearish on Salesforce, and I think that is true for most of the SaaS companies if that they are going to get more businesses, because till today we don't have a rate cut, and in a higher rate environment, IT spending is low. So keeping that, in mind, if you have a long position, I would not play this prior to earnings. I will play it after earnings. If we see a big drop, then maybe I'll look to initiate a position to start building on for a swing trade. That's
I
my
have a
take.
bit. I have a question related to possible kind of recessionary environment. How do SaaS companies kind of deal with recessionary environment?
So if you think about it, right, they sell the software to businesses, and because these are business enterprise applications. Now, as a large business, I would say, you know what, I want to preserve, I want to cut down on the cost of our IT spending, which means if you have a large enterprise, what ends up happening is different teams may get the same type of a software but from different vendors. So what generally in recessionary environment, you will start to see cost cutting measures. Cost cutting measures, how you can do that is to first look at how much you're paying into subscription for all the different softwares you have. Then you start to say, can we consolidate these softwares? Can this one software do these things, 5 things? And then maybe you will try to get rid of those other 4 vendors and just stick with one vendor and get everything under the bucket. Salesforce, because is a pretty big software company and they have a lot of different softwares under the umbrella, and they're kind of expanding, just like ServiceNow, just like your Adobe. They have different software. So what companies generally tend to do is they start to consolidate under the one umbrella. So if you could become a Salesforce shop, where using project management as one CRM. They also have customer service management, which is like opening tickets and stuff like that. So that's how it happens in recessionary environments. And by the way, all the SaaS companies have been feeling the heat because the sales cycles get longer, but you're not able to sell to customers as fast as you would want to, because they're taking their time, they're vetting out their vendors, they're going through longer sales cycle. You have to give them higher discounts. So that's how it is. That's why these SaaS companies are struggling in this environment.
Wow, no, thank you for that, Kay. It's eye-opening. But going back to the chart, I do like this for a bit of like a breakout trade. Just looking at the 3 kind of resistance points here, almost 4. This is what I like to look at. I like to have like a higher low just before the possible breakout. So I know obviously earnings around the corner, so I would probably wait. But just from a technical point of view, just playing it from this 264 up to 280, I know it's only a small percentage, but it would be a day trade in my opinion. So that's something to look out for as well on the chart side of things. Awesome. Are we done with Salesforce?
Yep, there's not much to talk about on
Awesome.
this.
Well, where can we find you?
Yeah, I am available on X, YouTube, and Substack. Follow me on X because I do post a lot of trade ideas throughout the week. And latest, I also posted on Meta. You can go check it out on my Twitter feed. On YouTube, of course, a lot more videos coming out as well. NVIDIA Trade, if you have not seen it, go definitely check it out. Um, Whatever Sean said, and then if you are playing into options, you can look into that video as well. Yeah, so let's jump into our audience request.
Yeah, I'm liking the frequency of which you're releasing videos now. It's nice. It's good. I get my updates on the video and all the SaaS companies. Awesome.
Yeah, I'll try to keep up as much as I can. So,
Yeah. Right, where are we heading first?
so first is S.
Just S.
Yeah, I think it's the cybersecurity firm. Let me see.
Sentinel-1. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay. Well, this is the first time I've seen this one.
it's a cybersecurity. It's like CrowdStrike, Cloudflare, all those companies.
It could possibly have a couple of lines drawn here. So it's been trending up nicely since the last earnings report, which is a bit of a drop. Going into earnings on the
Oh, they
27th, which is Tuesday.
exactly. They are also reporting earnings. Interesting.
Stick that on the chart there so people can see it. Yeah, a bit of a gap fill here as well, actually, at 27 to look out for. I mean, from here to there, it's just over 10%, I believe. Let's go ahead and stick that in. No, actually, I got that completely wrong. 7.4%. No other gap fills from then onwards. This is kind of all-time high territory. Let's have a look.
And you want to know
Oh
something
no,
interesting? On the
no
put to
idea.
call ratio for this company, it's 0.25, and an IV is 123%. So
Whew. Is there much volume in this? I guess that means yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
there are 12,000 contracts on the call side with only 3,000 on the put side. So it's a pretty decent volume, I would say.
that is maybe one to stick on the watch list just to keep an eye on it.
100%. This is I've
Um,
added on my watch list already.
we've got a big resistance at kind of 3013. As you can see there, this is the weekly chart now that we're on. So this goes all the way back to 2022, middle of 2022. So
Mm.
there's a little bit of resistance there. If we can get back above that, perhaps that might be a good entry to kind of go a bit higher towards maybe this kind of level here, 36. That's a good 20% trade potentially. Well, a bit of a line
It's
in there,
the
maybe.
the last candle is also very similar, right? To it's the last candle closed below the previous candle as well. Very similar to the other CrowdStrike and
Yeah,
NVIDIA.
the whole market really has done that, hasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so that'd be interesting to see. I've got a few levels there I've added to the watch list, so keep an eye on S, definitely.
Let me just make sure. And your implied move is between 10 to 16%.
So we'll call it 13% just
Yeah.
off the bat, and you're kind of looking about that. So $22 to kind of 28
Yeah.
potentially. And
So
that's
20
I
$28 is gonna bring you to closer to the to March pricing.
can see
Yeah.
that's after market close as well on Tuesday,
Yeah.
not before. So looking forward to that one already. Oh, dropped my pen. What's next?
Next is Marvel MRVL.
I gotcha. Okay, so I've got plenty of lines drawn on this one from back in the past. Let's
Yeah,
get rid of those.
we have not covered Marvel in a long time.
It was Nate that did this one, wasn't it?
Nate, yeah, it was Nate's.
Uh, so interesting that this Fibonacci I've drawn ages ago, like actually end of last year. It's kind of been playing around these lines for the whole of this year. Look at that. I love it
Yeah,
when that happens.
it's definitely barcoding, and
Yeah,
this is a nice. This is also reporting earnings on 8/29.
trend line there from way back as well. Let's go ahead and just stick that white. I will turn it to the weekly chart. Have a look at that. Yeah, so nice trend on the weekly chart. Obviously, this was obviously that dramatic day that kind of pumped down the whole market about 5%. Obviously, bought back throughout the day. So that's kind of trading within one day there, even though this is the weekly chart. See
Yeah,
in a bit. So we've got a nice trend line basically from the turn of 2023. Where it goes from here, I mean, we've got a little bit of resistance actually where we are at the moment. Perhaps a trend line breakout trade in my book would be nice to see.
only thing I will caution is that they do have a history of missing earnings.
Okay, right. So one
So
to have a
if
look at
you,
after earnings.
yeah, so if you're going to, I mean, they are going with a lot more upside EPS revisions, um, but they do have a history of missing earnings, and that could, because it's a binary event, right? Earnings, if you're playing earnings, it's either going your way or not going your way. Um, so so I generally don't like to take trades, especially when they don't have a perfect record. Like for
Yeah,
example, Nvidia, that the expectation is that they are going to beat the earnings. Question is by how much. So in this scenario, they missed the last earnings as well, and they have the habit of missing earnings at least since 2019, couple times. So
and that is on Thursday
correct. It's a
after
very
hours.
good, yeah.
So lots of names to be looking out for. But yeah, this is the kind of setup I'm looking at generally, kind of above the moving averages. But I'm definitely waiting till after the earnings. I wouldn't be playing this one before the earnings. Which I've said this a few times in the last kind of couple of months that I don't play earnings anymore at all, just because, like you said many times, it's a binary event, and you could just get caught with your pants down quite a lot, to be honest with you. Anyway,
Because what was the last I forget. I forget which ticker did I play. I think it was last week or the week before. They beat the earnings, but the stock still went down.
yeah, that happens.
So
Yeah.
that's the problem. Even if it's even not just the earning beat, even the good guidance, but the stock is down. Because you'll find ways to say, hey. Anyways, moving on to the next one. Next is
We're getting sidetracked now already.
yeah.
Celsius.
This
Okay.
is honestly, I think this is a very very interesting position. They had this gap up like back in May of 2023, and it had that massive run all the way going to what, $9,900 almost, which was start of March of this year. And now after this big drop, they have finally filled that gap, and now they're kind of barcoding in that region.
Yeah, I spoke about this on my channel the other day as part of a couple of trades that I was looking at.
Go for it.
What I wanted to do. Sorry, I never took this trade actually, which might actually be in my favour, judging by what's happening here with a possible breakdown. So, like, this is a bear flag setup in a way.
Hmm.
And what I wanted for it to do is to kind of break. Let me zoom in. Let's get it nice and big here. What I wanted it to do is kind of break through this 20 moving average and play up to the kind of 50 moving average. Just a simple moving average play. Obviously, the resistance up here as well goes way back a couple of years towards the kind of $50 mark. I didn't actually take this trade, so I can just move that out of the way. But you can see my thesis there. So if it broke above the 20 moving average, then it kind of broke out of this range, then it would have been okay. But not nice to see considering the market. Obviously, it kind of sold off quite a lot on Thursday. We had a big candle kind of along most assets. And then Friday was a bit more of a recovery day. We saw a lot of green candles, but this one suffered a little bit more. And I
Yeah.
just wonder if that's because of this potential bear flag and breaking down even further. And the next level I'm looking at now, really, so I'll just get rid of that because the trade is gone. Next level I'm looking at really is that kind of 3650 area, where it's got a previous low basically. So if it can kind of set a higher low there, then fantastic. But other than that, if it breaks that, we go lower. And I don't see any reason why we don't go lower. We've said it many, many times before with stocks, Neo being one of them, which I'm not happy about, but it's, it is what it is. It just kind of dribbles out. People lose interest. It's a drink. It's not exactly the most thrilling stock in the world, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. No, I think you're
That's what
absolutely right. I mean, it's barcoding, but the 20-day SMA is definitely a resistance on this one.
awesome.
Okay, next up is MU.
Micron.
And John asked for Tesla. John, we did cover Tesla a little bit early, so you can go back to the YouTube channel and check out Tesla.
I've got lots of lines drawn on this one. I don't know why. I think I might just get rid of all these lines in a minute, just to make it a bit cleaner. But we're kind of playing around the moving averages, the 20 moving average and the 200. So the 200 is kind of a major moving average generally throughout most stocks, in my opinion. It looks like we've kind of done a bit what Microsoft has done. I'll show you Microsoft. I was looking at this the other day, just to kind of compare it. Coming back above the 200 moving average, which is this red line, and we kind of come back down to kind of retesting it. It's kind of what we're seeing here with Micron, coming above the 200 moving average, coming back down and retesting it. And as I've said that, someone has just recommended Microsoft. So I can kind of play these two. No, we'll do Micron first and then we'll move on to Microsoft after, because I've got a few ideas around Microsoft and I'm kind of interested around kind of actually placing a trade on that one. I'm going to hand it over to you with Micron because I cannot stop talking at the moment. Here we go. Take it away.
No, I think it's at a very crucial spot right now, Micron. Especially going below the 200-day moving average, and then right bouncing off the 20-day moving average. So I would want some more confirmation and see if the stock can actually stay above the 200-day moving average. Because if the stock is staying below 200-day moving average, that's basically from a long-term standpoint, from a swing trading, it's it's on a downtrend. So I would want to see the stock first stabilize and go above the 200 moving average before taking a trade. Unless you're doing day trading, which is a different beast altogether. But if you're swing trading, I would want it to go above 200 day, have a confirmation, because you see last time it took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days. So last week basically stayed above 200 day, but then closed the week below 200 day. And I kind of don't like this setup here. Uh,
No. And you've got that 50 moving average as well. It looks like it's kind of likes the 50 moving average. We've got a bit of support around here. I know it's more like 20, but when you've got the 50 on a few occasions, 50 again there, and obviously the 50 before it kind of plummeted down through the 50. So the 50 is quickly coming down. I think in probably a couple of weeks trading, you'll probably see it down in these levels if obviously the stock is around this level. So that's another thing to kind of look out for if you are looking at micron
exactly. So
from a trading standpoint.
yeah, I would wait for, I would not rush into getting into this. I would wait to see how it plays out.
Definitely monitor it though. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll move on to Microsoft while it's here, while
Yes.
we've spoken about it. This one I do kind of like because there's a few things. I know you said, I'm just going to get rid of that. I know you said you don't like it kind of below the 200 moving average, but this one's actually above it. And it closed above it. It closed above the 20 moving average, and it closed above this trend line, which I've got going from the beginning of this year, basically. It's not the most perfect trend line. I mean, it could be up here, it could be even further
Mm.
down. But the important thing is it's kind of closed thereabouts. So Maiski, if that's how you pronounce it, sorry if I got that wrong. I'm kind of looking for a bit of a bounce here to the upside, and obviously kind of where we meet a bit of perhaps rejection around this 50 moving average, which is not the greatest return, of course. It's only 4%, it's not too bad. So there's a little bit of a trade in there, but of course, if you are day trading or swing trading like that, you could also place multiple positions, or take a partial positions when it gets to a certain stage, and obviously it gets through that. And of course, you can let your winner run. That's the idea. That's how I like to trade, at least. So I'm looking to take a few positions, obviously smaller positions to kind of accumulate to one. Um, Obviously, take some off the table at 50 moving average, and then obviously hopefully get back to all-time highs ultimately for Microsoft. Any thoughts around here, Microsoft, from a technical
Yeah.
point, or do you
I
see it breaking down?
I think I have a good feeling, because around the 404 area, we have very good volume shelf, 404 going all the way to 412. So if you like Microsoft and it's in your position and you like to sell options on, we could look into maybe expiration 927 around the $400. So you could sell an options, or you could sell a put there, and you will get around $400 or so on that. And that is the delta. That's a 24 delta. So if you want to be a little bit more aggressive, you can go to 405. But I feel like that is a very, very good spot. 24 is a good, spot to sell options on if you are an option seller on Microsoft. So that's another trade idea on this one.
Awesome. So there's plenty to look at around Microsoft, for sure. And I don't normally trade Microsoft at all. I normally trade kind of Google and Amazon from the mega caps, at least. So Meta, Microsoft, I just don't really touch. Even Apple, I don't really touch that much. I know you trade Apple quite a lot. Is it right?
I have not traded Apple. I actually trade Meta. I trade Meta, Google, Amazon, what else? Tesla, NVDA. Those are the ones I trade.
Yeah,
Apple
most
I
of
have
them
not
then.
traded recently. When I say recently, maybe in a year I haven't traded Apple.
Oh, okay. Well, I got that completely wrong, didn't I?
No, because I
So
talk about Apple, because
you
Apple
do,
is in my
yeah.
long-term position. So I talk about Apple a lot, but I don't trade Apple that much.
Awesome.
Next up is Chewy.
Cheery. And that's from Matt, I believe.
That is from Matt. Yes.
Oh, okay. So I've got a line here as well, back in my pink days. I don't know when that was, but we're playing around that line as we speak, which is around that kind of 2670 lines where we are now. Um, Straight away from a technical point of view, the last couple of months has been absolutely mad. I imagine the volume has been a bit bigger. certainly around these areas. Yeah.
They also
Ouch.
report earnings on
Oh,
8/28.
oh, okay. So that's this week.
Yep, on Wednesday before market open.
I'm sure lots of people will be looking at that then. Technically speaking, just trying to kind of get my bearings for this one. Obviously, a bit of resistance around 30. Do you trade this one much, Kay? 'Cause I don't.
I don't trade CHWY.
It says a bit more of a meme stock, or is that a lie?
I think so. It was more of a meme stock. I generally trade mostly SPY, QQQ, and Mag 7 and semis.
You could have a bit of a head and shoulders potentially, but there's so much going on. But the head and shoulders you could have from let's get the right tool out if I could find it. Oh, there we are. Kind of like that, and perhaps coming back down to kind of 24.50, and then making a move back up to kind of 30, and then hopefully breaking 30 in the long run, of course. So there's a little bit of head and shoulders potentially happening there. So I'd like to see a bit of a rejection actually at this level, which is probably not what you want to hear, Matt. But a little bit of rejection here, maybe come back down to that 24 level. I'll write that down on my notes in a second. Keep an eye on that. I know it's around the moving averages, but the moving averages aren't always perfect. So you can see that on the chart here. So obviously it's come back down to the 20, but it's broken it for a little bit and then come back above it. So there's no reason why it can't do that again, so to speak. So yeah, I'll add this one to the watch list for sure, but I'm not overly keen on it. I'm guessing
And
you're not as well, okay?
just to add to that, they generally have about a 13% implied move post earnings.
Okay, 13%.
Yeah.
And they've got that this week, haven't they? So from here, as an example, 13, that's 18. So we're actually looking at that huge resistance point at 30, or a break below the moving averages, maybe perhaps on the way down to 200 moving average. That's the implied move from earnings in the traded areas. Yeah,
Yeah. And if you really draw the trend line, long term trend line, it's still making lower highs.
lower highs. Oh,
Yeah, if
a
you
really
really go
long term
long,
one.
yeah, exactly. If you
Yeah,
really go long, you will start to see that they still making lower highs. I went till January of 23, still on a downtrend.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those stocks back in late 2020 where it went all the way up, as you can see here, massive.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see what happens with Chewy. I like it though. I don't dislike it.
cool. So
Anything else, or was that
I
we
don't see any others, but we can take.
we do have a
So
comment from B plus Uzwal. How do you check the implied move before earnings?
let
Hey
me
Ollie, that was you.
actually put the Sean. I'll put the link in the on our channel, and then you can post it. So we'll put there's a website called marketchameleon.com. You can check it there, and I'm pretty sure there are other places as well, but that's a easy one.
Got a couple more requests flying. I'm sure we have a bit of time to have a look at them.
Yeah. I like. So we have Starbucks. I think you mean not Federal, no Reserve. I think you mean Kava, not Sava, but
Yeah,
right.
Carver had pretty good earnings, didn't they, this week?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about Starbucks first?
Um,
No, you're not a big
I'll,
fan
I'll,
of Starbucks.
I'll let you go for this one because obviously
Okay.
the big news recently. But I'll let
Okay.
you talk about this one.
So in this one, so generally, people say you shouldn't be, selling puts, not selling put, but you shouldn't be shorting the market. But I actually shorted Starbucks. We'll see how that plays out. And the reason I shorted Starbucks is because the news had this massive gap up. And if you think about why Starbucks has been declining, it's declining because from a fundamental standpoint, they are not getting business. The reason we had this gap was because they got the CEO from Chipotle coming into Starbucks. That doesn't mean that the market conditions have changed. So that is the reason I did short the Starbucks, and we'll see how that plays out. But again, even when you're shorting, you have stop losses in the trade. So I will definitely be getting out. But we'll see how this plays out. I have a 6 month time horizon on that trade on the option. So I think I'm okay with this. But this massive gap, that is going to be filled at some point in time within that 6 months.
You're hoping anyway. Yeah.
I'm hoping. If not, then I will definitely get out of the trade. But because they will report earnings in 3 months, and that is what I'm playing to. Because if the trend doesn't change for Starbucks, I wouldn't be surprised if they come and fill that gap.
Yeah, I mean, you can see just even on a technical basis, I know it's had good news and stuff, but this is the monthly chart. We've got resistance here at the 20 and the 50 moving average, which it looks like it's kind of trying to reject that already. And then on the weekly as well with the 200 moving average, hasn't quite reached it, but it's hesitating around these levels. So I like your thesis behind the trade for sure. But on the daily, however, you are above the 200 moving average with the 20 and the 50 kind of moving up quickly behind it, with this kind of big volume shelf kind of approaching now.
Yeah.
But that would be just because of this one candle pretty much. So
Yeah.
I mean,
To answer my question, are you using puts or more complex? No, I'm using puts.
Nice. So I actually had a trade a little while ago, a short trade on this one. I don't know when it was. I made a bit of money on it. I think it was here, just this little kind of break of this support. I think it was.
Because if you think about it, right, there are two gaps. When you had the gap down, that gap is still not filled, and then you had this massive gap up. So that's the reason why I'm hoping that within the next earnings going in, because once this news settles in, that the new CEO has come in, he's not moving from his place, he's going to fly to office, all that, news, once it settles down, stock price will come back to reality, and we will probably see some kind of a gap fill. If not, then that's okay. We'll get out of trade. Big deal.
Exactly. That's trading. Right. We're going to
Kawa.
move on to SAVA, actually, because it is SAVA.
It is SAVA.
Yeah,
it's okay. But I think
Casanova Sciences.
it's very interesting. Who knew?
That was a joke, by the way. Cassava Sciences. Now, I'm guessing this is some sort of biological play.
Let me see. I have never heard of this.
I imagine this is some sort of FDA approval because it's one hell of a move.
Oh man, that has strong sell ratings on this company. But let me read what they do. They are clinical stage biotech company, develops drugs for neurodegenerative diseases. It leads therapeutic products. Candidate is, I don't know how to say this, simiflim, blah blah blah. A small molecule drug which phase 2 clinical trial. Man, it's too complicated for me.
Alzheimer's drug and trial not approved yet. Says not federal, no reserves.
I see.
But it did do 374% in 4 weeks.
Crazy. Yeah, I think all these biotech companies, it's
50% short. I'm guessing that's short float.
By the way, there's a lot of sell ratings on this one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised because it's got a 50% short float, which is incredible.
Crazy.
That's I'll definitely be looking at this one for a very small position in my account, if at all. But yeah, thank you for bringing this one up. NFNR, essentially.
So then we have another request. It's Redfin, I think, RDFN and ASTS.
Oh, Redfin. This is the mortgage company, isn't it?
Yes, it's like Zillow.
Yeah. We don't have it here in the UK, of course, but I do know roughly what they do. Big gap fill here, potentially, at 1390, which from these levels, even if it is slightly extended in the last few trading weeks, we do have a potential at the 25% extra to move upwards. It's asking quite a lot because I imagine the RSI is quite high. Yeah, you can see it here. It's sitting at 76. It's not too high. It's not like really high, but it's pretty high.
The stock ran up to $100 almost at one point.
Well, is that back in 2020-ish, I imagine?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. But it's definitely trading in the right area. It's just whether it can hold the momentum to keep going. we do have this kind of previous resistance, or actually no, current resistance of about 1110. Stick that in. Obviously, back in early parts of this year, it looks like we're kind of struggling around this area now. So it'll be
Or,
interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks, because we
yeah.
would like to see these moving averages kind of come up, stock stabilize a little bit, and then perhaps make a run to that 1390. So I'm not expecting this to happen anytime soon at all.
Also keep in mind the RSI is 78, so overheated right now.
Yeah, just mentioned that.
Next up is ASTAS. Did I get that right? Sorry, is that ASTAS? What is that? So it's ASFI is the ticker symbol. ASTA fund.
Yeah, what?
ASFI.
Are you sure? I've got some bonds in Germany.
It's not showing up. Okay, so we move on to ARM for now until let me figure it out.
I'm holding this. We like this one.
Have you been trading ARM?
No, I did have a trade here at a short when it came back down, but I sold really early. I was actually sold about here, so I didn't actually get the whole move. But money's money, I suppose. My bad. ASTS. Okay, we'll have a look at that one in a second. B plus as well. Not easy to say that, but we respect your name. So, ARM. Do you trade ARM at all? Because I don't really.
No,
I
I
had
have
one trade
not.
here, as I mentioned, but that's it.
No, I have not traded ARM honestly, but I do have my chart lines over here. So let me see. I think right now we have a good volume shelf at the current level between 125 and heading up to 131. So that's why you see most of the volume there. And then we kind of have this 50-day moving average resistance, which is still far. So I think from a long swing trade perspective, I look into breaking this 137.18 level and heading towards the 149. That's the trade. But I want to see the confirmation of the breakout first before I enter, and then hope to play that 137 to 149 level.
So when you say breakout, breaking out
So
from what?
so so when you draw the fib level, right? So in fib
Oh,
level,
okay.
you have the 137 at 50% retracement, and then from there I will try to play that next level, which is 149 if we are doing a
Okay.
swing
So
trade.
just to move between the levels,
Just
basically.
to move between the levels, and
Yeah.
that will take you to your 50-day moving average. But I want to see this break first because they have not been able to break that level in last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trading days.
Yeah, interesting. For me, there's not much of a trade here. I know on your chart, so for the watchers watching, he's obviously talking about the Fibonacci levels on his chart, which you can't see in the moment. But for me, on my side, it's just a bit of no man's land at the moment. Kind of trading between this range. So I'd like it to get above this eventually, maybe in the next couple of months, perhaps. Kind of getting back above 147 and then playing that move up to kind of 173 ish. Is that what that is? Yeah, 173. So I do like it, but just not yet.
Yeah. I mean, it's not screaming out that hey, there's a trade here. It's like
Yeah.
if you want to play, that would be a short term play that you can do. So no
Exactly.
Federal, no Reserve says I have heard mortgage companies like Redfin will be a good investment in either a recession or a soft landing. Yeah, I mean that's one way to play the market. Um,
Sure.
if
I
you
mean,
are into Redfin, if you have those investment, I think everybody kind of has to have some kind of like how do I say, like for example, SHAUN is big into EVs, right? So he focuses more on EV sector. So you're finding opportunities. What has worked for, I think, in my experience is like you kind of have to start to specialize into certain sectors because you can't know every sector. So for me, I'm not into real estate, so I really don't want to comment on the real estate.
another way of playing real estate is dividends, isn't it? I mean, a lot of people do that. They get their dividend income through real estate companies,
Yeah,
real
yeah,
estate holding companies. That's
like
another way.
Vici realty income. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah. And all those REITs as well. So
exactly, exactly.
that's another way of getting income from real estate. Because obviously Redfin and Zillow and all that can be quite um, volatile, should we say.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll go back to ASTS and we'll call that as the last
ASTS.
one, shall we?
Yep.
Thank you, Matt, for ARM. Could open us up to a little bit of a trade opportunity in the future. ASTS, wow. I mean, yeah, this is a chart and a half. Literally nothing happened for, I mean, plenty happened in that time, but now it's really happening. I think I've
So
actually heard this ticker recently.
they develop and provide access to space-based cellular broadband network for smartphones in US.
So just since May, the end of May, oh no, middle of May, it's gone up almost 1,000%. At its very peak, it went up 1,100%. Wow. I mean, people actually find these stocks and get in them, and I seem to miss them all. But maybe that's my risk allocate. My risk appetite is obviously not for these types of stocks. That's probably why. But congratulations if you did get in this, especially if you got in kind of the lower parts of the stock move. You're doing very, very well. Don't forget to reward yourself with the positions and take a little bit of profit at least, because that's kind of what I would do from a personal perspective. What would
Yeah.
you do? Would you take some off the table?
100%, 100%. I
Yeah,
mean, I mean, you're trading, right? So
yeah.
profit is part of it. Because they had this kind of a run up before as well, around the 2021. So they were pretty flat, and then they had this big run up, and they made higher highs until 25.37, and then they had this pullback all the way going down to the lows of 355 in end of 2022. So if the pattern repeats, you could see a further decline. That's why taking profits is important.
One thing I've been looking for as well for downside is RSI divergence. So you've got a peak of, let me get a little bit of a brush out here. So you've got a peak up here and a peak on the RSI. But if we get another peak higher, around kind of, let's say there, for example, but the RSI is actually lower when that comes across, then that's a bit of an RSI divergence, which means there's a little bit of weakness in the stock. Not as many people are really kind of buying it as much. Because it has peaked out quite a lot of the RSI, and that's what I like to look for, RSI divergence, especially in the daily time frame, to kind of get those swing opportunities. So that's another way of kind of looking at this trade potential,
So you
in my
basically are
opinion.
saying, Sean, is the risk to reward, right? There's more risk of downside than upside here at this point in time.
Well, at this point of time, when it gets here, if it gets here, then there's definitely more potential in the downside than the upside. Yeah.
Mm.
At the moment, of course, it's above all the moving averages quite considerably, but you would expect it to kind of move down. But with the volume that's kind of been put into the stock recently,
Yeah.
it's a no touch stock because it can just keep going. In my book, of course, you've got the volume massively increasing just in the last couple of weeks, even though the volume before that was pretty good, but it's gone up. It's gone up again. So there's no reason to say that it won't go up again.
Mm.
But what I'm looking for in that respect is if it does go up again, is to obviously set a higher high, which is fine, but in that case to set a lower RSI, which means RSI divergence, and perhaps the stock is potentially changing its way for the next kind of trend going forward. So that's what I look for, and I hope I kind of explained that well for the viewers. So yeah, thank you.
And I will make IT says that RKLB and Lucid looks like ASTS.
Yeah,
Do you
Lucid.
trade? Do
I
you
don't.
trade Lucid?
I don't trade Lucid. No, I mean I trade the earnings sometimes and I short them, but that's about it. But yeah, look, you can see it's just really erratic at the moment. Lucid. I'm not too sure why it's done that. I didn't see any using it. I know they had a bit of a Saudi improvement a couple of weeks ago, but I think that was this one here. But yeah, and you've got that, and Rocket Lab is one of those that I missed out on. I have traded Rocket Lab quite a few times, but never really held it long enough. It's one of those really volatile stocks, so it moves 20, 30% pretty quickly, but obviously that in turn can bite you in the ass.
Mm.
But yeah, really nice move up recently. If you're looking from the ultimate lows up to the highs, we're looking at 73%. So yeah, and I know a lot of people are in this stock, and you hear it quite a lot on X. Anyway, we'll wrap up, shall we? We're getting
Yep,
past the kind of hour
that was
mark.
the last request for today.
Awesome. Let's get rid of that. So as we head into the next week, obviously Not much in the way of news. We do obviously have NVIDIA earnings on Wednesday, so I'll be looking at that one very, very closely. And we do have the CPI, not CPI, core
PC, yeah, core PC.
PCE, sorry, yeah, core PCE on Friday. So that's a little bit of an event, but doesn't tend to move the market too much. So not much in the way of news. I'm sure there's a few Fed speakers I think I've seen, but no one too kind of massive, should we say. So yeah, just be careful when you're trading out there. Obviously, it's still very, very volatile regardless of this kind of lack of news. And yeah, enjoy NVIDIA earnings. Okay, hand it over to you.
I think you covered it pretty well. I think stay safe, trade safely, and let's wait and watch for NVIDIA earnings. That's the
Yeah,
banger for the week.
a quick thank you as well, just before we kind of move off. Thank you to Wolf as well for letting us use the platform. We've been going for well over an hour now, and I think we're going a little bit tired. We're not used to going over an hour, but we love it. We do love it. We'll see you next week, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern Coast, and obviously 6 p.m. in the UK as well. Thank you very much for joining, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.